Okay, hi, folks. It's Larry here with my pal, Freddie Hudson. Now, I'm going to ask Freddie. Freddie's going to talk about the book that he wrote, which will satisfy all the guys that like all this mob stuff and fixed races and all of that. You'll get a kick out of this book. It happens to be a true story. He put it all together. He's going to tell you all about that. But before he starts, I want him to tell everybody that's listening everything that he's doing to help the harness racing game that was completely destroyed by all the people who ran it previous to the guys that are in it now, who happen to be some of my good friends. They're trying to revive a business that's a great business that just suffered very bad management and is right now is on oxygen. And Freddie has been in Washington now for years, lobbying with some of the biggest lobbying firms to try to get as much help as they could for harness racing. And he's doing it on his own dime. No help from anybody, which in my opinion is just a fucking disgrace. But anyway, Freddie, before you start about the book, just tell them a little bit about what you're doing down there in Washington and how it's coming and what progress you've made so far.
Okay. How I started going to Washington, D.C., it really started with the Roosevelt Raceway reunions. When we did the first two Roosevelt Raceway reunions, we did one at the Meadowlands, which was at the, I can't even remember the name of the place, Land's End or something like that. And then we did the other one down at Pompano Park, which Pompano Park one was a weekend. But when we did the reunions, we did them to raise money for the Standard Retirement Foundation. And so at that time, I found out about our horses being shipped for slaughter. And I said, well, this isn't right. And so about a year or two passed. And then all of a sudden, like I'm in Washington, D.C., and I decided, well, let me just go down to Washington, D.C. and just see what's going on. I knew that the SAFE Act bill was out there, and I could just basically, I'll just listen and I could report it. And I just went there to report it. Well, before I know it, I'm no longer reporting it. I'm now basically attending meetings, and I'm going into the meetings. I'm an amateur, and I'm basically listening and learning as to how to lobby. And I started doing this. We were doing it for about once a month. And then, I started meeting other people. Other people started attending hearings. And once a month became like about 4 times a month, once a week. I started pairing off with, I started meeting some of the really top lobbyists. Shaun Smeallie's group, which is the American Continental Group. He's one of the top lobbyists in Washington, D.C., started lobbying with him. And he's basically lobbying right now for the SAFE Act. He's also trying to get an amendment in to with the Farm Bill to stop forced slaughter. That's the other thing that we're working on. Marty Irby, I've worked with him. He was with Animal Wellness Action. He's now started his own lobbying firm, which is Capital South. I work with Marty all the time. I've worked with the American Horse Council, Judy Broadway. I've lobbied with her. I've lobbied with them on other bills, not the SAFE Act or the Horse Race and Integrity, because their organization is officially neutral on those. And I've lobbied with so many different organizations, so many people. I've attended, over 500 different meetings. If you name an office of a congressman or a senator, it's a 90% chance I've been in their office. And I have been doing this, for, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years, something like that now. And it's fun. It's enjoyable. It's costly. It's very rewarding. I've learned how the political system works. When you go into these meetings, for the most part, you meet with the staffers. Sometimes you'll meet with the senators or the congressmen, but for the most part, it's with the staffers. I've been in meetings where racing is conducted, and what I should say is that in meetings with offices where they have their state has racing, and the people I've met with don't even know that racing exists in the state. One of the things that when I was lobbying, I lobbied with Hal Handel and again Marty and Owen Riley, who's now he was representing the Continental Group in the Jockey Club. He's now working for one of the congressmen. But when we lobbied, and the first thing I said to them, I said, when we go into these meetings, I have to explain what harness racing is. And they said, well, Freddie, you don't have to do that. They know what it is. I said, they don't. They said, Freddie, they know it. They have to know what harness racing is. I said, just trust me. So the first meetings we go to, so when it was my turn to talk, the first thing I say is, are you familiar with harness racing? First answer, no. Please explain it. So I had to explain harness racing to them. So we go to the next meeting, the same thing. And like these guys are like sitting there, they don't know anything about harness racing. That's how bad our sport has been promoted over the last 40 years. Nobody knows what harness racing is. And when I go into my explanation of what harness racing is, I have to explain that the sport has 1.2 billion bet on it, and that we have $500 million in purses. Those are the main things that I get across in explaining what the sport is, and that basically gets their attention. But we've been very successful. We got the HISA bill passed. We got a tremendous amount of support for the SAFE Act, but I don't see that bill going anyplace. The other bill we're trying to get put through on as an amendment into the Farm Bill is one that we're trying to get the equines added to the end. They can't be slaughtered along as cats and dogs can't be slaughtered. So if we can get equines in there, we could end the horses being slaughtered. But that's the work that I do in DC.
Unbelievable. On your own dime. Unbelievable.
Yeah, most of it.
Unbelievable. I know that on your show, I want you to tell the people that are watching this about your podcast. It's an audio podcast. I've been on it a few times.
Yes.
That's what I'm used to getting barred from racetracks, but now I think I might be barred from your show after a couple of appearances there. But I'd like you to tell the people you had some great people, great guests on your show.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That one lady really impressed me, and I just can't understand that you do everything that you said you did, are doing. All the great guests that you have on your show, and I just can't believe you can't get a sponsor or a couple of sponsors or somebody to just help you along. I mean, I don't know how much more you could do if you had money, but at least it'd help you with your expenses that are all right now are coming out of your own pocket. And I think that's totally unfair, because it's supposed to be one hand washes the other, and it's terrible. It's terrible that, and we talked about this last year and the year before, and I think I even posted something on Facebook saying how I feel about that, how everybody could benefit from everything that you're doing, but nobody helps. I just don't get it. I just don't get it, and I don't know how much more. I wrote one or two posts on Facebook trying to embarrass everybody, but and then I realized that if I was in a different financial position, I'd send you maybe 10,000 a month. I can't do that now. Maybe in a little while I'll be able to do it, but right now I can't, and I can't believe that guys like, and maybe I shouldn't mention any names, but guys like Gorell, who's probably worth $1 billion, and has a company and has write-offs. Why can't you be one of his write-offs? I don't get it, and just help him. And I just don't get it. Anyway, talk about whatever you want now, or talk about your book. Do whatever you want to do, and you can ask me any questions you want, but don't ask me how I feel about it, because I'll get mad. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, before I came on the show, I actually, by accident, I pulled up an old program. And there it is, Larry Rolla, it's a P driver, racing at Yonkers Raceway. Calumet Will.
Calumet Will. Do you know that when I wrote that book, when I wrote my book, I had a call. I must have spent maybe 6-7 months just making calls because I was convinced by my friends, some movie stars and heavyweight people, to write my life story, and they convinced me to do it, and I did it, and a lot of good things are happening because of that book. But I had a call 6 months. I made phone calls trying to. All my friends that are still alive saying, do you remember any stories about me? And everyone had hundreds of stories about me, and they're all out there, and I gathered them all. And one was, I don't even know if I ever mentioned this, when I think that was 1963, 64, something around there. I was the only provisional driver, and you had the program and you would know, because I know that I couldn't get stalls there until Tommy Lucchese, that mob guy, made a phone call to Levy, Morton Levy, who owned Roosevelt Raceway. And the reason he was able to get me to stalls was because Morton Levy, who owned Roosevelt Raceway, was the attorney for Frank Costello, Lucky Luciano, and all the mob guys. So I was able to get the stalls, and I don't know if it had anything to do with it, me driving, but I was the only P driver allowed to drive at that time. And I remember Mike Santa Maria went into the judges because he had a P license at the same time, and he says, why, and that started a little beef, but then they allowed P drivers after that. I don't even think after that, after me and Mike got a regular license, I don't remember ever seeing another P driver drive there. Maybe you do. I don't.
Yeah, we should explain what a P driver is to the audience. A lot of them probably don't know. It's sort of, a P driver means provisional driver, which really is like if your rookie year, you're a rookie. In auto racing, you would be a rookie. So that's what a P driver is.
Yeah, and the reason they weren't allowed was because Yonkers and Roosevelt at the time were the premier racetracks in the country, and all the top drivers, including Freddie's father. Freddie's father was Billy Hudson, who was one of the top drivers there. And an unfortunate thing happened. It was terrible. I come to the barn one morning, and this whole barn burnt down. There were dead horses from the fire. It was terrible, terrible. And that's another thing. You see, I can't get started with this because that poor guy, your father, lost all his horses, lost the whole stable. I don't remember anybody stepping up to help. I just don't. And he spent his whole life in that business, was one of the top guys there, excellent trainer, excellent horseman, played a good guitar too, I remember.
Oh yeah.
And nobody helped. It was unbelievable.
Actually, one person did help.
Who's that?
That was Huey Bell. Huey Bell gave him a couple of horses, so he had a couple of horses to train and race. And remember back then the horses weren't insured, so when you lost your stable, there very, very few people had their horses insured. And so the horses that he lost in that fire, they were not insured. And he did have a few horses in another barn, but he had all the better horses in the one barn that were all burnt up and killed. And it's just sort of like, it was all the equipment gone, everything gone. So it was just like starting over the next day. I was terrible.
A kid. And you know what else bothers me? It's just, I stayed in the game, and I fought to stay in the game, and I spent millions on attorneys to stay in the game because it's just a great game. But I remember the time all the horsemen got together because management wasn't doing the right thing. And they hired F. Lee Bailey, the attorney. And we met in a Gangwar restaurant across the street from Roosevelt Raceway. And F. Lee Bailey he knew the whole story. And he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, nobody put an entry in the box. and this way we'll get management's attention. Well, he came back the next day. The next meeting was at 1:00 at the gangway. And he says, I went to the race office, and you know what? The box was full. They filled the races. So you people have no shot, and I'll see you around. And he quit, and he left.
Yep, I remember. That's exactly why he quit. He said, you guys can't stick together.
Yeah. And it's and the people that didn't put the horses in were the trainers that needed to race the most. And it was shitty. And I hate to say that, because the guys that did put the horses in 30 years later were the guys that got me back on the right track. Stanley Dance, Billy Houghton, and they helped me clean up my act and give me a second chance. But no, that it's just nobody helps anybody. No, it's just terrible. Anyway, go ahead, Freddie.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the book now. Okay, so a couple of years ago, I decided to write this book, and I sort of put it on the shelf. Kenny McNutt was one of the people that sort of told that I should write the book right before he passed away. Kenny thought that the truth about the Superfecta trial should be out there, and people should know about it. So everyone knows the outcome. The outcome is all the drivers are acquitted. But what people don't know is what really took place in the courtroom. And this is what this book is going to explain. The book's build up is from the first time when they announced that there were investigations going on and the Superfecta was suspended. And then the FBI basically comes in and they start interviewing and picking up people. They're arresting people in about a 3-4 month period. They're bringing people in for questioning. And then in September of 73, all of a sudden, all the papers announcements or the FBI investigation, all races, Roosevelt, Yonkers, and Monticello, all Superfecta races fixed. This is what the headlines all read. They started bringing in September of 73. All the drivers were brought in, and the whole political scene on it was, we're going to be indicting drivers. All the races are fixed. And so then it moves on into December. They indict and arrest 28 people, 13 of them being harness drivers. My father, one of them, Insco, Carmine, Benny, Kenny.
All New York guys. All New York guys from Yonkers and Roosevelt.
Yeah, everyone. And then they wouldn't give them the bill of particulars. They wouldn't tell them what they were charged for. I'm giving the whole book away. And so they had to fight for their bill of particulars. And then after they got the bill of particulars and the trial started, they started changing the bill of particulars on. And then it just comes down to the witnesses that the FBI had. They were coached, and it was all brought out in court. And this book is going to tell you what the people in court had to say. And these are the actual words that people said in court, and what the attorney said, what the prosecutor said. You had one guy who basically, when they picked him up, I think that the guy just made things up. And if you ever raced a horse at Roosevelt or Yonkers Raceway, he said that he heard that you fixed the race. And then basically it goes into the acquittal, and then it basically goes into the aftermath as to that's a little bit on the short side as to what happened to these guys afterwards. Some were able to resume their careers and others weren't. A lot of these guys, my dad, one was totally ruined after that trial. Billy Meyer was ruined. Maurice Pusey, Eldon Turcott. You could just go down the line. Dell and Carmine and Buddy, they were able to recover. Benny recovered. Coco recovered, but most of the others didn't recover from that trial. And this book tells the whole story.
Unbelievable. It's, I don't think it's fair. I'm going to talk about the Racing Commission and the ones responsible for all of this happening. Now, whether whether they did or didn't do what they were accused of, even though they were found innocent, but whether they were innocent or guilty and just found innocent is immaterial to what I'm going to say. The Racing Commission, and I know this because I've been in front of the Racing Commission probably more times than anybody in history, and barred from racetracks in Yonkers and Roosevelt more than anybody, and cost me a lot of money to try to get back. But when you get accused of something and you appeal it, so first, right off the bat, they say, okay, you have the right to appeal, but we give you a 30-day suspension. You have the right to appeal, but if you lose the appeal, you're going to get 60 days or 90 days. Then you appeal. You appeal to the same people that accuse you of doing what you're doing. So then they have a rule that you can, once you lose your appeal with the Racing Commission, you can go to an administrative judge who acts as an arbitrator. So you go to an administrative judge. In my case, I won. The judge ruled in my favor. And then I find out that the Racing Commission has the right to overrule the administrative judge's position. So I'm glad them guys, including your father, got away with whatever they were accused of doing. And I think it's so unfair that not only of these people that brought these charges, not only are they political appointees, but everyone is put into a position of complete incompetence. They ruined the whole fucking game. They charged people that never should have been charged with things they never should have been charged with. They have no idea what they're doing. And they become power hungry because Congress of the United States gave the Racing Commission to write their own rules and govern their own body. And they're like a government within themselves run by total incompetent people and destroying the people that put on the show with stupid nonsense. And only now, from the little bit that I know, are the guys like you, guys like John Campbell, guys like Feraldo, whichever side you're on. But at least they're competent. At least they've been around for a while. At least they know what they're doing. I remember there was a time in Monticello when they had 3 judges, including the presiding judge and the state steward, that were just political appointees, never been to a racetrack in their life. It's just unbelievable. And then they want to call me in for a move that I made on a racetrack, which is a strategic split-second move that they don't have a clue. And these are the people that destroyed this whole industry. And the people that are in control now, that some of the people that are in control is still full with a bunch of idiots. Had they been around, had they been in charge years and years ago, none of this would have happened. They just let it go too far. And once the casinos were built and the lotteries start happening and the attendance dropped from 30,000 a night to 10 or 15, things should have been done at that time, and they weren't. Everybody just kept taking the job. Some of them judges were on 2 and 3 pensions, and just they couldn't win. You know why? You know why a lot of races, and you know why I fixed the last race Superfecta at Monticello every night? Because it was the last race. It used to go off, the last race used to go off at 1 minute to midnight. And whether the race was a bad race and the crowd could have been booing, the judges couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. So you never got an objection in the last race, not in the last race at Monticello anyway. I don't know about Yonkers and Roosevelt. I was barred from there, so I can't say nothing about that. But I give you a lot of credit, Freddie, because you know everything I'm saying is true, and you're trying to fix it, which is to me an impossible task. I don't know how the hell they're going to do it. Between the animal rights people, between all the drugging that's going on, between everything that's happening now, in both in thoroughbred and standard. The thoroughbreds will survive. They'll survive because just about every politician is either has a horse or has somebody at a horse, and they can't wait to get to Saratoga for the 4, 5, 6 weeks with their big hats. And anyway, what else you want to say, Freddie?
Well, to save it, basically the whole industry needs to change. The whole attitude of the industry needs to change, and the industry has to come across and basically say, we are here for the horses first, and we are looking to save the horses, and we are going to basically make it look very positive for public perception, for the public to like us. If you can change the public into liking us and thinking positive of us, we could save the sport. But we're not going to do that if we're out there basically fighting against organizations that are trying to eliminate drugs, trying to eliminate slaughter, trying to eliminate cruelty to animals. You have to flip over to the other side, and you have to say, we are here, we're anti-drug, we're anti-slaughter, we're anti-horse cruelty. And anyone who violates these rules is going to get they're going to be run out of the sport. And that is the way that you save the sport, and you basically get the public on your side. Right now, the public is against us. So
yeah, but Freddie, you know what the problem that what you just said is?
I know it's an impossible.
Who the hell's going to listen? They already heard all this shit before. Who's going to listen? I think I have the problem. I think I could solve the problem how to get people back in the grandstands. And I mentioned it at that Horseman's thing they had. You were there, and they invited me to come. That Horsemen's get together at the Meadowlands, and John Campbell.
That was one of the Roosevelt Raceway reunions.
Yeah. Well, John Campbell and Billy O'Donnell had a table because after that event, they went to the dining room, and they invited me to their table to have dinner because I had no ticket. I was just asked to come. I didn't have a ticket. So at the table, John just took that position, and he was thinking about taking position somewhere in the harness racing industry to try to help it and clean it up. And I says, John, I says, I think I know the only thing that will fill the grandstands again. I know you're not going to do it, and I know nobody's going to do it, but this is the only thing I think will work. And if you don't do it, the harness racing is going to be, there'll be 2 tracks left. When I was in the game, when you were in the game, driving and training, there were 150 racetracks listed on the back of the program, 150 standardbred racetracks. I think there's a handful now. And
about there's 30 now, 30 something.
37. And if you eliminate Yonkers Road, if you eliminate Yonkers
and we're only in 14 states.
Yeah,
harness racing is only in 14 states.
It's a joke. Anyway, here's my idea, and this I know this will work. I know it will work. Make a big announcement, do a little marketing that every night at the Meadowlands, there's going to be 10 people that are picked from, just like you pick the lottery numbers, 10 people that come to the grandstand are going to sit in the race bike with the driver in a real race. Don't put them in a bike, put them in the jog cart with the big bench seat. Put a spectator. Now, what's going to happen? All of these kids, all the younger generation, they're going to come hoping that one. And once you get the one kid to come, everybody's going to start coming. And before you know it, the grandstand will be full. Participation. Let them participate. Let them sit in a cart in a race. And before you know it, within 2 or 3 weeks, the grandstand will be full of all kids who you want. Because right now, when you go to racetrack, I think at Monticello the other day, they had 15 people in the grandstand. I don't know about the Meadowlands. I live 2 minutes from there, but I don't go.
A couple of tracks have tried that, Larry. The biggest problem, though, with that, in my opinion, is we've fallen so far that we don't have anybody coming to that's interested in sitting in the jog cart and going in a race anymore, because there's no interest in it anymore. It's gone. Rosecroft Raceway does it, and then they have to run around begging for horses for the to put in the race. And And the other problem now is it's not like it used to be where we were on the grounds. You now have to ship your horse into race. And so it's going to cost you X amount of dollars to get your horse over there just to do it. And a lot of people are not willing to do that. The cost of shipping is just astronomical. In New York and New Jersey, the average cost on per horse is, monthly upkeep is about $5,000. When we were trading horses, it was about what, 1,000?
Unbelievable. And then I remember the last year I was in the business, after I got reinstated, after about another 100,000 it cost me in attorney fees, they reinstated me, I think I forget when it was, but I stayed in it until I stayed in it for another 5 or 6 years until they closed the barn area at the Meadowlands. And then then you had to go 55, 60 miles away to Freehold to one of the show places or one of them farms out there, which means I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, drive 60 miles, take care of the horse, then stay there all day or come back. And then if I had a race that night, ship a horse back to the Meadowlands. Then after the race, ship him back and then come back home. And it was crazy. It was just nuts. And I remember back then, even the top trainers, they were buying 8-horse, 10-horse slants, trailers, and putting horses in just to fill the trailers so they could charge the owner $150 for the, so they'd have 7, 8 horses in every night, and they'd actually make like $1,000 a night just shipping horses back. So every week they'd make 5, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 just shipping horses. Half of them shouldn't have even been racing in the classes that they were in, but they did it just to fill the. Now nobody's ever going to admit that, but that's what they were doing, and because of the expense, because you stabled your horse at the Meadowlands for free. Then all of a sudden you go to Gateway, they want $500, $600, $700 a month to feed. Then everything else goes up. Of course, I remember when I think it cost $15 to shoe a horse. Now it's $150. Everything goes up. Like in Monticello, people say, well, why do they fix races at all these small racetracks? Well, 50 years ago, the purse was $800. And to shoe a horse and to feed a horse costs $20, $30. Today, to feed a horse costs $150, $200, and to shoe a horse costs $150. But the purse is still $800. So how you supposed to make it? So if somebody comes to you and says, "Look, give me $500 to finish horse," and that's what I did. That was my game. That's not your game. Has nothing to do with the game today. It's what I did years back. But that's my story. But I got to give you a lot of credit, and also that television, that show that you have, the podcast, you have some great people on there with great.
Oh yeah,
great. That woman really impressed the shit out of me. And I'm going to tell you something: if that lady ever hooks up with the animal rights people, that'll be the end of racing. And they listen to her. But she's
which woman was that? Which woman was that you're thinking of?
I called you right after that she came on, that one that had the investigator, like she knew it, she knew everything. Okay. You know who I mean? I don't remember her name.
Was that the veterinarian?
No, it was some other lady that kept saying
but we've had some of the top people in the thoroughbred industry on the show. We've had the top people from the animal rights groups on the show, top people from the harness racing sport, top politicians. We've had everyone on the show. We've had how does the guy, like maybe somebody that's listening, how do they get to hear this show? Do you have to be a horseman? I don't even know. I'm on it. We're on Spreaker. We're on iHeartRadio. The easiest way probably is to go to our website, USHRAA.com, and just hit show. And we have all the shows there. They go up as instantly. And so I have people that listen to the show there. It's Harness Link broadcasts our show. They put them out for us. Google Podcasts, we're there. You name it, we're there. We're worldwide, and we're on probably about 30, 40 different platforms. So We're on so many platforms, I don't even know who some of them are. So they just pop up out of the clear blue sky.
When are they going to get universal drug rules for every state?
They're working on that with the thoroughbred industry right now with HISA, and probably harness racing will probably be brought in probably about 2 years. But the harness racing industry has along with on the Horsemen's Benevolent Protection Association's groups on the thoroughbred side have lawsuits all over the place against HISA trying to prevent it. Even though it's a law at this point, they put their new bill up there that they're trying to replace it with, which it's a bill that's has zero chance of going anyplace. It's just a distraction and a smokescreen. And they're basically just trying to say, "Oh, look what we're doing," but it's meaningless. But they'll spend $2 million to try and push it.
Did you just say the thoroughbred people are trying to stop universal?
The thoroughbred. Okay, the Horsemen's Benevolent Protection Association side of the thoroughbred industry. When you get to the Jockey Club, the Thoroughbred Owners Association, you get to the major players in the thoroughbred industry. They are pro HISA, and then you have the ones that are anti HISA are the Horsemen's Benevolent Protection Association, which they are like in our sport, they're like the local horseman associations, like that you could compare them today, like the they're a comparison to the New Jersey Standardbred Owners Association or the New York Standardbred Owners Association, which are all in opposition to HISA. One of the reasons is they lose power on it. So, but they're in opposition. But most of the others are pro.
Unbelievable.
It's very interesting. So,
well, one good thing about what you're doing, at least you got an automatic pass card for heaven. So
I don't know about that.
yeah. You got it. I just hope that somebody comes and helps you out. I just can't believe it, especially somebody like Corral or. I don't know. It's very depressing to me, and I don't know how the hell you do it. I don't know how you help continually.
I've had many days where I wanted to quit. I vented and I want to quit. I want to just walk away, and then something just keeps you going, and you end up not quitting. So, but many times I wanted to.
What else you want to talk about?
I think we've covered some pretty good ground here.
When's your book coming out?
My book should be out in this month. I'm still finishing up on it, and you love that. But I self-publish, and so once I'm finished, it takes 72 hours to print. It's for it to be available on Amazon. So.
Are you going to you're going to have it put in? I know when I wrote my book, they asked me what you want it in all them bookstores and I said no. All I want is one copy. But what you?
No, it's going to be up on Amazon. It's going to be published worldwide on all the networks that Amazon has, and then it will end up in all the bookstores will be able to order it if they wish. Basically, with these type of books, where you make any type of money is you do the book signings and you do them in person, and basically you just go from in our situation you go from different racetracks and stuff like that, or horse sales or something to that effect. I have one being scheduled right now that is going to be sponsored by former New York Senator Phil Boyle at Suffolk OTB, which is Jake's 58 Hotel and Casino, which is out on Long Island. And so that's scheduling. We're working on a date for that one, tentatively November 4th, but we're not locked into that date. And I might be doing one at Shenandoah Downs on October 29th if the book is ready.
Shenandoah Downs. Oh my God.
And then also, we'll do Rosecroft, the Meadowlands, Harris Chester, Dover, Ocean City, and probably do Goshen next year. So.
And you're going to be at all of these places signing books?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
What are you going to do about the divorce settlement?
We'll take that one day at a time.
Oh, God. So you'll be away all the time. Geez, that's a lot of traveling. You'll be traveling well, that's a good idea, too. Go to the racetracks.
Yeah, and start doing it. I've done book signings before, and this time, I can bring the Roosevelt Raceway book along with this one, and I'll probably sell that one too at the same time. I know that when I did the book signing at the book review in New York, they when I did that signing there, they also had some leftover Roosevelt Raceway books, and they sold 20 copies of it while we were doing the other book signing.
Well, that's all right. That's okay. Well, how many pages? How big is that book going to be?
It's going to be about 240 pages when I'm finished with it.
When I wrote mine, I self-published, told me keep it under 85,000 words. So I guess yours is just about the same. I guess.
I'm about 40,000 words right now, and I'm stretching out because I am putting some pictures in there of actual events that took place, of the people and stuff that were on trial, and the prosecutors, the witnesses and stuff. I'm weak on witnesses pictures, but the other thing that I found really interesting when I got into the paperwork on this book was, of the 13 drivers that were indicted, and do you know that they had over 70 listed as co-conspirators? 70 others were listed as co-conspirators. If you drove in a Superfecta race at Roosevelt and Yonkers Raceway, you were listed as a co-conspirator.
Unbelievable. You know what's sad about that whole thing is them guys. I remember Billy Meyer, one of the top guys, top horseman. He was just a great guy. Your father, great guy. Maurice Pusey wound up driving a horse van for Hut, I think, or one of them horse transport. Brookledge. All them guys put out of business just because of total incompetent people. And whether I don't know if I don't know anything about it. I can't wait to read the book.
You gotta in one of the races that they're accused of fixing. You're gonna love this one. 4 of the drivers that were indicted are in that race. The other 4 drivers in that race are not indicted. The 4 drivers that are in that race finished first, second, third, and fourth.
And they were the ones indicted?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
That's how incompetent the prosecution was. You can't make this stuff up.
I don't.
When you get into it, but Buddy was accused of, Buddy Gilmore, he was accused of fixing 7 races that he won.
Yeah. I knew
Insco, the same thing. The Insco's attorney. This is in the book, and I can't explain it word for word because I took it the way the attorney said it. His attorney was Daniels, and he goes, "Let me get this straight. In this race, this is the fixed race. They bet my client both ways to win and lose. How can this be?"
I don't know. You got all the court transcripts and everything?
I got a lot of them, and so a lot from the different newspapers that were reporting it and stuff like that. So I'm overloaded with information, and so what I'm really doing right now is just I'm deleting stuff to make the book more to make it more readable and basically blending it together.
You got pictures of all the drivers?
Yeah, well, most of them. I don't have. I need pictures of George Folby. I could use a good one of Eldon Turcotte, but. Dale Ross. Those are the 3 that I really lack on photos, but everyone else I'm covered with.
You should call the people up at Monticello. There's a guy that goes up there. I forgot he's on Facebook. He called me a couple of times. They got to have a picture of Foldy up there. Foley stayed at my house one day. I was going to fly. This is when I was in a lot of trouble, and I owed out a lot of money. And but I went to Florida for the winter, and I let Foley had no place to stay. He was going to stay for the winter meet at Monticello. So I said, you could stay in my trailer.
What winter meat? Did it have heat?
Yeah, it had. Well, it had heat because he paid for it to turn it on. But what happened about 3 o'clock in the morning? Two wise guys come in, busted right through the gate with guns and everything. They thought he was me, and he called me up the next day. He told me about it, and he almost got himself killed just by sleeping in my place, because I owed them guys a lot of money, and they thought I was in that trailer. Poor George. He was a good guy. I think when he got out of business, he went to work for Lou Gigani, driving one of them limousines, I think. I don't know where he is now, but he was a really good guy. There were a lot of good guys, and I don't know about Yonkers and Roosevelt because I wasn't there, so I have nothing to say about Yonkers and Roosevelt. But in Monticello, there were a lot of good guys that were just pure horsemen that wanted to stay there. That just like Bobby Merton and the two kids now that are leading guys up in Monticello. They grew up in tack rooms. They grew up on the dirt in the shed row, And they
didn't Bobby get into a really bad accident?
Yeah, it was me. What happened was right that coming down the stretch, we were probably 20, 30 feet from the finish line. He was in front of me, and whipping and slashing, and he was fighting for the lead. He probably would have won the race, but the horse stumbled, went right down real quick, and I was right on his back. And when the horse went down, he went over the top of the horse, but his foot got caught in the stirrup. And me being right behind him, my horse went right over him and crushed him into the bike, into the horse, and everything went forward except from the knee down on his leg. I landed on the hub rail, and 2 or 3 horses landed on top of me. So all my ribs got broke. And I woke up in the hospital, and who's next to me? Bobby Merton. But when I looked over, his right leg from the knee up, instead of being straight, it was faced. So his shoe was by his head. It was just the other way. So he was unconscious. So I told the doctor, I says, get me a phone and call up. So I called up John Manzi at Monticello. And I says, John, you got to get this guy out of this hospital. It's Monticello Hospital. I mean, it was not a good hospital. And they flew him to New York, and they wind up saving the leg. I don't know. I think they put it back, and then they put the 2 legs together so we get blood supply or something. Anyway, the bottom line was a year later, his right leg that got screwed up was as big as a pencil. And naturally, he couldn't drive anymore or nothing. So the only help he got was that they gave him the job as a stall man and paddock judge or something like that, where just a bullshit thing. And I felt so bad for the poor guy, but at that time I was not in a position to help him. I was fighting for my own life, and he wound up dying after that. Just a good guy. And these are the things that happen in that business. And back then there was no compensation, there was no insurance, there was no help from anybody. And thank God his 2 kids are doing 2 good kids, they're doing good, and they both good drivers, and they're up in Monticello, they're doing well. But that ended his career. I felt terrible, but it wasn't my fault. It was just one of them things that but at least they saved his leg. But I don't know. It's as big as a pencil, but it was, Anyway, what else, Freddie?
I think we've covered enough. We can close the show out, and then we can talk afterwards.
You don't want to. You can't. Ain't there anybody that we could really Rag
Well,
on?
you know what I should say? I should bring in, about our show. I'm going to go back to the show. My co-hosts on the show are Trade Martin and Bob Marks. I didn't really mention either one of those, them guys. And
Two good
both
guys.
do a great job. You know, Trade, if most people don't know, he's really a musician, entertainer. He's done, movie scores. He's had hit records, and he's done a lot of jingles, which were tremendously successful. He's been nominated for, I think, 13 or 14 Clio Awards, which that's for, the top commercials in the world.
He was a top producer for B.B. King, I think, too.
Yeah, he got a Grammy for that with B.B. King.
Yeah,
and he's been on some movies and stuff like that. I think he was in The Sopranos too, a couple episodes. So, but Trade's a great guy. Loves you.
I went to see him every night. He had one of the best bands in America, and I used to go see him all the time. Between him and Danny Lamego with the Jumper Jacks, they were the best. Trade would start the show. Back then, the places they played music till 3 o'clock in the morning. He would start at 9 o'clock. His first break would be at midnight, and I don't mean. I mean, nonstop, one song into another, and then they take a break at midnight only because one of the band members had to go to the bathroom or something. And 5 minutes later, he was back on and played straight till 3 o'clock in the morning. Great singer, great voice. Wrote a lot of good songs. He was just a good guy. The other guy you got on your show, Bob Marks. I have his book. That guy's a genius. Right. That guy is brilliant guy.
Yep.
Bob.
Yeah, he's in the Harness Racing Hall of Fame in the Communicators Corner. He's a journalist, and he ran Peretti Farms for like 25 years. And before that, he was pretty much a PR handicapper over at Roosevelt Raceway and Yonkers in the Meadowlands. So
he's a sharp guy, very, 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 very smart. And another guy that it's so bad. It's so sad. There's so many really great horsemen like your father who wind up not and there's only like a handful of guys like in Stanley Dancer or Billy Houghton's class that made it to the top in a game that made billions for the states and the racetrack owners. And but most of them just go nameless, and it's so sad because I don't think the average person knows what it is to train and race horses at 5 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week, work all day, race all night, 7 days a week. You have to be there, and it's just. It has to be an act of love for most people because there's 99% of them just survive. I don't know how they do it.
Horses have to eat 7 days a week.
Yeah. All right, Freddie. I guess you don't want to cut nobody up. We don't want to talk to anybody. So we'll just end this. And when the book gets close, maybe you'll come on again just to make the announcement. Okay. That it's done and where you can get it, and I'll see you then. I wanted to ask one more question before we go. Did they make any decision about the LASEX rule?
In harness racing?
Yeah.
No, the LASEX, what they're doing with LASEX is going into a 3-year study. So they're going to study LASEX. The study has started. And then they're going to basically make the decision off of what the study comes back.
Why don't they just call me up? And
well, there's so much opposition to it that they had to do the study. But
Freddie, I'm going to solve the problem. The opposition have on your show with me on the other end, and after the show, I guarantee you that LASEX will be banned. There's no reason for it. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. I'll go on one of my rants. Anyway, Freddie, thanks for coming on. I wish you a lot of luck in all you do. I only hope that somebody with a company that can sponsor you, help you. I'm sure if they listen to your podcast, it's one of the most entertaining, and it's not only one of the most, it's the only one that's out there that you cover everything about everything in harness racing, and somebody should help you out.
Yep. But we're actually we're the number one harness racing podcast in North America.
And you did it all by yourself.
Well, I had Trade help me and Bob helped me, but yeah.
Oh, that's what I mean. You three guys did it all by yourself with no. Okay. Yep. Well, maybe you'll get a sponsor out of this.
But yeah, hey, you realize that when we started the show, you were our first guest.
I was.
Yeah, you were our first guest, and as our first guest, when we started, if you remember, we had you on the show for 45 minutes or about an hour, and Trade edited it down to 5 minutes.
Why did he do that? I
don't know.
I know that you have one. I think you have two of the times I've been on. They're on YouTube. I see them on YouTube. Yeah. One when you asked me.
I quit doing YouTube. And the way that our system was set up, like they would automatically go into YouTube, but it was also interfering with Trade's business on his regular music. So I started doing the YouTube myself, but I found out for me to do a YouTube, and basically the way I had to download the show and then upload the show and then basically put the slides together and put everything, it was taking me 2 hours to do one show. And I just said, the heck with this, I'll only do certain shows if I have to do them on YouTube. So I just basically dropped doing YouTube.
But Freddie, two of your shows with me are on YouTube right now.
Right. Yeah. We still have a bunch of them up there. So there's still a bunch up there. Those were ones that I did. Everyone that's up there on YouTube now is ones that I did.
Oh.
And so basically, I brought them over from Spreaker, and I'm the one, put the slides together and basically put them up on YouTube. And it was just it's a long process. It's not like something that you just do 1, 2, 3. The way that I had to use Adobe, and then from Adobe I had to load it up into the YouTube, and then the Adobe would only let me I could only put one slide. They would only limit me to one slide for 30 seconds. And so I'd have to put this slide in, this slide in, this slide in. And by the time I'm finished with it, it's 2 hours. So
I know when I went to Florida, I had dinner with Ronnie Gerfine just before he died. And he said to me, he says, why did he was talking about the one I did on your show about Lasix, my opinion on Lasix. He says, you were just getting started. Why did they cut you off? And I says, I don't know. I says, trade handles all of that. Is that show on one of the ones on YouTube? The
it
one when I talk about
it should be. I'd have to go check. I'd have to go check.
That's one that should be on there, because if that was on there, I have to check too, because I get a lot of questions on my podcast here.
All of the shows, the audios are on Spreaker, and every single show is on Spreaker, and every single one is on iHeartRadio, and I have on the USHRAA. I have about half of them because we keep them over at the Spreaker, but every show is on Spreaker. And so all you have to do is go to Spreaker and just scroll on down and find your name, and you'll have the audio for the show there.
Oh,
and
okay.
You can do that. Do it that way. And our website again is USHRAA.com. And anyone who wishes to visit us, please visit us. We basically everything what we do is right up there on USHRAA.com.
And it's I think they only do it for maybe 20-25 minutes, but it's the most it's the most
we vary on the shows. When we first started doing it, we were spending more time editing the shows than we were with the shows, and basically we decided to quit editing everything on the shows because it's just too time consuming.
Yeah.
And that's probably why trade didn't play with your show, because of the fact that the trade, if people have a tendency, myself, you, everyone talks, and they basically go and then say a word. So what trade was doing, he was going through the whole show, and anytime there was a person had he'd take them out, and then they'd go over and they'd take this out, and take this out, and before you know it, he's spending hours and hours editing one show that's only a 10-15 minute show.
Yeah.
So we stopped that. So basically we now do our broadcasts as if they're live broadcasts, and we just let it go. If we have mistakes in it, we have mistakes in it.
Yeah. All right. I just the people that don't know about it, just you heard Freddie tell you how to get to it. It's very, if you're interested in horse racing at all, just go listen to his show. And when the book comes out, we'll have Freddie back. He'll tell you where to get the book. Get the book. Freddie's a good guy. And if you have a company or something that could sponsor his show, please help him, because he does it all on his own dime. And it's sad and it's criminal. And he never asked for help, but it'd be nice if somebody helped him. Anyway, Freddie, thanks for coming on. When your book is ready, call me up. We'll have you on again. And
all right.
And we got to.
The title of the book is the Superfecta Trial.
Okay. Well, you'll be on again, and hopefully you'll have a book in your hand, and then we could also post it on everything on this podcast. Tom knows how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Anyway,
I got a copy of the cover so far.
You got a copy of what?
The cover.
Oh yeah, you sent it to me.
Yep.
Yeah, I should. Well, I'll wait till you get the book. It's gonna be another month or so, right?
No, it's gonna be fast. I'm gonna have it out this month. So.
All right, Freddie, go to sleep. Thanks for coming on. And
Harry, my pleasure. Always a pleasure. Okay.
Tell your partners there I said hello. Trade.
I will do so.